it's kind of nice to be first up. You can do it and then listen to everyone else. It's great to be here, and I left snow in Dublin, so obviously it's nice not to have snow. So they asked me to kind of talk about ICOs as a kind of way to kick off the day and just take us through what is a very live area at the moment. So I guess I was explaining to some people, we've been writing about tech-related things for a good few years, and then a couple of years ago we saw a lot of stuff coming through about use cases for blockchain, and I feel that things have moved forward a lot since then, and we're now at the point where people have gone away, developed the use cases, and have very real, useful solutions. Now, obviously, not everything should be tokenized, but the things that are coming out there that have value are ones that have a good solution and do something smart. From this, I got asked to advise some different ICOs, and in the fast-natured way that things move, I pulled out my spreadsheet and realized that I was up to 95 that I'd worked with. So luckily, I mean, that's not 95 at the time because you'd go insane. But it's like, as David Drake said, they're on like three months graduation campaigns pretty much. Now, a good ICO will actually be a lot more than 3 months, but the lifetime probably could be 3 months. So ICObench is one of the places, so it's based upon ones that you've worked with, so that's me at the moment. At the end, I'm going to put the slides up on SlideShare, so you'll be able to find my contact details, and through the day, just come up to me. I'm very approachable. So, and that's just the logo, so you know what I'm talking about. So then I was just talking about it, and there are many ICOs out there, but maybe some should be doing things, and maybe some shouldn't. And you're always looking, I guess you could call it crowdfunding on steroids or something. When Indiegogo and Kickstarter came out, everybody thought, oh, this is amazing, I can build my purple unicorn and people in the world will give you money. But obviously after a while it turned out you still need a good idea, you still need a good team, and it's very much the same with this. If it's just one or two people but they don't have the requisite skills across the board, then they're going to struggle. For a while I was a software engineer, I was a very bad one, but I did work out that the guys who were super smart sometimes were so smart that they wanted to convey how smart they were rather than communicate what they had built and why it did well. So in a good team, I think you definitely need a very strong CTO, but you also need people that can communicate the message. It might be your technical guys, but it might not be. It might be somebody who understands what you're doing at a high enough level to come here to an event like this and say, this is what we do, and I can tell you as much or as little as you need to know to make a decision to invest on it. And so sometimes you have to rein in your technical guys because they'd like to go into real intricacies about the API and the things that it's done. And the investors go, I have no idea what you're talking about. You know? And I think it's important to keep helping them with that. So then people are, when should we go? What should we do? When should we do it? And the thing is the really successful ones, it's a bit like the iceberg, 6/7 of what they're doing, you don't realise they've done it, the preparation's been happening for a while, and then they only launch the private rounds, the pre-ICO and the ICO once they have everything joined up. Whereas from the outside, some people who are looking to do an ICO perceive, oh, but they did it in 6 weeks, obviously we'll do it in 6 weeks next week. And you're like, oh my God, please don't do that, it's just going to crash and burn. Again, I think, so we're in a bit of maybe a crypto winter at the moment because obviously prior to Christmas, once the taxi driver's talking about crypto, things were getting a bit bubbly, and therefore, I had lots of friends going, who should I invest in? Tell me now. And you're like, well, maybe do your due diligence, look into things, see what they actually do. But everybody just felt that there was a boat that was leaving that they wanted to jump on. The thing is therefore, there's, on one hand, there's more caution about what people want to invest in, but on the other hand, I feel that this could be a good thing because hopefully then it means there's less speculative ICOs and the things out there have real value, actually solve a problem, and are not just somebody looking to raise, ridiculous amounts of money so they can go and buy their villa somewhere. So therefore, drill back to what do you actually do? Does it actually do something? Have you actually built it? And if not, maybe go back to the drawing board rather than just pitch your ICO based on an idea. So this is the thing too. So I write about tech. We cover a lot of topics. We deal with a lot of very intelligent people, but occasionally we're like, I'm sorry, I don't know what your product does. I don't understand what you're saying it does. And I think no matter who you are, and so I tell some people to come to events like this, to spend the day telling other people what their product does and see what the responses are, and see if people go, yes, that's an amazing idea, or maybe they just go, I don't understand. And it's that whole get out of the room and actually talk to people. And I think sometimes people go, it's amazing, why are you investing? Surely you get it. And it's like, but if other people don't get it, that's a communication issue on your side that you need to look at. And also, too, coming to events like this, and particularly I've recommended for several of the ICOs to try and have open conversations with people, because it's the old thing. You might think that it's funding you're looking for, but actually they may have a really good insight on what you do or how you can position what you do. So try to keep having these open conversations, because you may miss something otherwise. And the last event I was at, it was in Texas, and so I was going around the room asking, like, the bit that's next door, and I was saying, oh, what do you do, and they would tell me. And then there was this pause, and I was like, oh, normally if anyone comes up to you, maybe ask them what they do too. And so you were trying to help them into a headset of working out how to try and establish value. And part of that is communicating what you do and being able to listen to other people. And it might sound simplistic, but not everybody is thinking in that way. And that you could easily miss really interesting opportunities from somebody who's standing next to you, but you haven't had an open enough question to find out something you weren't expecting. There's a little bit nuts and bolts, and again, everyone is different. But again, I have worked with some, I haven't worked with some, but there are some that wanted to do things. And I'm like, okay, so do you have the white paper? Do you have the explainer video? And they're like, oh yeah, it's getting made. It should be ready in about 2 weeks, and we're launching in a week. And I'm like, your time frame is all wrong. You have to make it easy for people to invest in you. And with some of the ones we've worked with, I was trying to look at it as if I was an investor. What is it? What does it do? Why is it cool? Why is it different from something else? And investors often subsequently will drill into everything, but initially they just like to see the explainer video to get a high-level take on it. And some of the ICOs are like, oh, well, we're not doing that yet, or, because our white paper is so compelling, who needs a video? And again, you have to work. If you think about how do you make a first pass by on something? Do you read the white paper, all 60 pages, and check out all the references? Or do you maybe look at a 30-second explainer video to see if you want to commit time to it? So it's that thing, keep trying to put yourself in the position of how other people are viewing you. And, again, with the super technical guys, I say be able to switch between a very high-level explanation of what you do and then go deep later. But don't go deep initially, because I might have lost 90% of you in the room. So start high. It doesn't mean you're not smart. It doesn't mean you don't have amazing technology, but it might not be what they need to hear. This is an interesting one too. I'm on Twitter. I'm active on Twitter, but I have never tweeted what I have for breakfast. And equally, here are your tools: LinkedIn, Twitter, Telegram. This is not absolute. This is not forever. But at the moment, these are the ways that people will start to work. The big thing is people will be saying, is this a scam? Who are these guys? Are they going to take my money and I'll never hear from them again? So when you are positioning your proposition, you need to think the way that other people are going to think when they look at you. And if you have zero digital footprint, and again, I've worked with a lot of Russian and ex-Soviet Republic, and they're like, well, LinkedIn isn't really big in where we are. And I'm like, that's true, but that doesn't really matter, because it's how other people look at you. And if there's no record of who you are or what you've done, then it undermines the credibility of you. And when we went back to have a great team, well, you're not enabling other people to buy into you and what you do. And so with one of the ICOs, they said, yeah, but some of our guys don't do social media. And it's like, yeah, look, I get that. I'm not saying you have to Instagram everything that you do, but for the duration of being in this space, I think you just have to accept it, that you're going to have a public-facing profile. Because when the investors and everyone else are doing the due diligence on you, they want to see who on earth is this person. And you might go, but I have a great idea. But that's not going to be enough. Or the thing is I'll often see the same idea positioned by several different ICOs. So therefore, how am I going to differentiate between you and the other ones? Make it easy for me, make it easy for other people to believe that you are who you say you are, and that you have previous experience, because these are very strong indicators that you will actually be able to deliver on what you do. So therefore, you know, I'm not saying tweet what you have for breakfast, but have some presence. You know, please, or not even please, but if you want to be compelling, you need to think about that, you know. Again, having a great product is super important, but it's also important, again, there's a lot of noise, there's potentially other companies doing similar things to you, so you are going to need to commit time and resources to actually differentiating what you do over others. If you don't, I think you're going to get swept up and you won't get heard about the others. Events like this are also good for the physical, that in one day you can probably hit 40 to 60 people, as well as what you can do online. So I think it's a mix of being who you are, also having a digital presence, and then also having a team that can roll out what you do. Again, while it seems like maybe an ICO is 6 to 12 weeks, approximately 3 months, actually, like the iceberg, a lot of work has been going on beforehand to bring you to that position, to give you the time to make the campaign a success. So therefore, it's like, you're an overnight success, but it took 4 years to be that overnight success. That's probably a more realistic time frame. I'm not saying you do your ICO in 4 years from now, but I'm saying ideally leverage what you've done to this point, because these kind of guys will help to buy you a little bit of time. Yes, and we're having a nice chat down here with you. And the whole Telegram at the moment is a great way to take a pulse of what other people think about you, what people do and don't understand about you, and then equally within that, having worked with the 95 ICOs, I think I was saying I'm now going to create a slide or a paper or an article about the same comments come up at the same stages in ICOs. So therefore, as the people managing your campaign, you can actually have your frequently asked questions prepared, you can have responses prepared, because the same questions and the same emotions go through. I mean, and some of you will know this, so some of you are going to be thinking about, yes, they're bugging me, when are we going to be listed on exchange, when are we going to go to the moon, all these things. And I'm beginning to see that you can actually plot it out, and it's quite predictable what people will be asking you. Therefore, if you can anticipate that, then you can manage these things, and then say you've got a thriving Telegram group of 7,000 to 10,000 people, well then that's 7,000 to 10,000 advocates for what you do, if you manage it right. And conversely, the ones where, back to having a digital footprint, the ones that have worked well, the CEO, the CTO, the main guys in the campaign have been active in Telegram, and that helps to manage rumours, deal with things, and communicate why you're doing things in the way that you're doing. If you don't do that, if you do that, you've got 10,000 advocates. If you don't do that, you've got 10,000 detractors. So therefore, again, for the time that you are putting yourself in this space, then I think you also need to accept that having a public-facing, communicating aspect of what we do, it just comes with the territory. Afterwards, then maybe go offline again, but it just comes with the territory if you want to be successful. Yeah, look, I mean, if you have people that are not quite right, it will drag you down. You will spend more time dealing with the people that aren't quite the right fit. So it's better to try and make sure you have the right people, because you can fly with that, whereas it will drag you down if you have people that aren't quite right and you're trying to manage them to do what you want. For crypto coin news, I feel sometimes it's a bit like working with the wire. I don't know if you know the wire, but often if they weren't happy with people, they got rid of them very fast. And at first I thought, that's super fast, but I've realised that if somebody isn't a good fit, the sooner you can get somebody who's a good fit there instead, it's just one less headache, and then it becomes a positive rather than something that detracts from what you do. I don't mean kill them, but I just mean, move them on. So when I shared the slides, these are just some of the ones that are doing interesting. They're doing a nice mix of things, but they're ones that have a good team, good product, they have a good time frame, and they know what they're going to do, and they're actively and intelligently communicating what they do. Not everything will work well, you have to manage expectations, but I've seen some ICOs that have used their Medium blog very powerfully to anticipate and explain why they didn't hit 10 million in 2 days, but they've explained, you know, like John McAfee had a lovely slide about every year for the last 3 years in the Chinese New Year, the price of crypto has fallen. So I think on one hand we're in a new space, but on the other hand, contextualizing what's happening will help to keep people on board, because obviously not everything we do will be as successful as we'd like all the time. But if you're smart, you can use that as a marketing opportunity as well, by explaining that you are aware of this and you're dealing with this. And the converse, and the worst thing you can do, and you've probably seen this, is if there's a problem and you don't respond. So like Binance, the trading exchange, they thought that they were going to do well. They thought that they would reach $1 billion in about a year, whereas they reached $2 billion in 3 to 6 months. And they said, we thought we were going to get there, but we just didn't expect this level of volume this quick. Okay, so, but they managed expectations and they communicated and they had to scale. And I guess this is the other thing, to plan for success as well. And what does success look like? And if you are being successful, do you have the capacity to scale up so that you can deal with all these new people that love what you do and are then getting annoyed that they can't engage with what you're doing? So just future-proof what you're doing by planning for success, because it's... The spin I do is these are good growth problems, but there's still bumps in the road that are annoying people. Okay, so then this will be the contact details, and then this is where we came from. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So just got the line.
As Simon said, feel free to approach him at any time throughout